Hello everybody, my name is Niall Sebastian Power Sieger. In the past I did the Facebook timeline niallpowersieger.9. Niall is written Niall, power like the power, and Sieger is Sieger. That's how it's written, everything together, niallpowersieger.9. And the account is showing universal communication. And what I did over there was I tried for more than 1.5 years to make very transparent universal learning processes. So periods in my lifetime where my physical body was influenced by universal communication partners on one side, herbal influenced for universal communication learning processes. So I went to several sickness periods as others would describe it. That's the one side. The second side regarding health is that I did learning processes to overtake illness from other human beings. From, for example, a heart problem from a lady surrounding me in the area where I'm living at the moment. So my human body was in a period for that as well, and other stuff like this. We live in a super symbiose, and the Facebook account is trying to show that, to show universal communications with beings which have lived as human beings before, or with beings from another species or different species. The Facebook account is very complex. Please do not lose yourself in the different health situations you will find if you analyze the Facebook account. On the other side, the Facebook account is also showing the universal communication by itself. In different periods, also learning processes. So different ways I can communicate with beings which have lived as human beings before, or beings from different species. And the Facebook account is showing all that, and I tried there to make it transparent to the public with the idea so that they maybe can learn to communicate with their forefathers as well, because that's what I'm doing too. On the other side, because of the learning processes and the medical situations I have been through the period where I created this Facebook account and made everything transparent, it is very difficult to analyze it because it's easy to lose yourself there. So that's what I want to make clear. It's showing, the Facebook account is showing universal communication with other beings, and there are the different ways. One of the ways was to catch mirror effects they can use to reach you in the communication process. Because these beings which have lived as human beings before and beings which have belonged to other species before have the features to control the nature of physical bodies. So the natural law, they can use the forces how the living humans definited natural law with the natural forces like wind, rain, thunder, lightnings, all that stuff. So they can use that for communication, but they also can use physical bodies as human bodies, animal bodies, plant bodies. And my Facebook account is showing that as well. If you reach my Facebook account, I'll repeat again, niallpowersieger.9, Niall, Niall, power like power, Sieger, Sieger, niallpowersieger.9, everything written together is the Facebook account. So if you reach the Facebook account, if you try to analyze it, be careful there. Also, my posts in this time period might look to you very confusing, like they might look to you very mad, and you might be confused by that. I can explain to you that very simple, as you will find out. The music which I made transparent on the Facebook account is also part of the universal communication, because as I explained before, human bodies can be used by the Softtouch principle, so they can be guided. And like this, musicians do create music on planet Earth daily, and forefathers can communicate with living beings. if these living beings are able to catch that, to analyze it and to verify it. And my Facebook account showed that also. So it's a very complex Facebook account, and you have to separate all these different fields I just explained to understand a bit. So it's just a Facebook account, I would say. It's very good to analyze for top analysts. All other human beings might lose themselves there, and I'm sorry for that, but that's because I've been to the medical situations parallel too, and they did had an effect on making transparent the rest of the universal communication, of course. And on the side of that, as I explained, confusion, for example, was part of the universal communication because beings which have lived as human beings before do identify themselves. So, for example, if I do communicate with a being which have lived as a human being before and had created music through her or his own lifetime. And in the songs is confusion a parameter. So the being can create confusion inside my own human brain to identify himself as the being which created that music I just listened to. So that piece of the music can be a part of the universal communication if confusion was a matter of a song. So that's regarding what you can find music in my Facebook timeline. Therefore, you should know with the living musicians, I had no direct contact. With the musicians which have lived as human beings before and are now just beings without a human body, with them I have direct contact. And therefore, you can find their identification by themselves through my human body on the Facebook account. That's how you can understand the Facebook page. So it's not a Facebook page created by one human being by its own. It's a symbiotic Facebook page on one side, and on the other side, it also shows parts of my private life because I'm a living hiking and I'm real too. Please understand, because I'm doing this universal learning processes, and I'm willing to do them in the future again, also in the medical part. Please understand that this Facebook timeline is very difficult to understand anyway. And please understand it would not help yourself to understand it if you judge me as a human being because of a situation I've been to, are made transparent. You have to understand it like this. I will make situations even transparent in the future where other people would say, no, I would never make something transparent like this because I would look like a total fool and idiot in the public. Regarding me, you have to understand that I decided image reasons, and these are image reasons, can be no reason to avoid to inform human beings alive about the possibility to communicate with their forefathers. And the medical periods I'm walking through, which are really looking embarrassing if you analyze my Facebook page, that's a price I'm as a human being is paying, that other people talk bad about that timeline and talk maybe bad about me because they just judged me wrong. So that's a price I'm paying to inform other people. You can see it like that. So do not get confused by yourself if you see me on my Facebook timeline in medical conditions which are very confusing to you as a viewer on one side, and on the other side you find periods where I'm very healthy, where I can communicate very clear, very on point, and all that stuff. You have to look at the Facebook page very professional as an analyst to understand it. Okay. Now I'm gonna do a little session because on my Facebook timeline it's December 2019 right now. You're gonna find in December 2019 Mahatma Gandhi as a communication partner. Actually, I'm gonna watch with you a video which ended up being in my timeline. And regarding this timeline, I will explain to you, it was a live project how I started. So in the beginning, I have been live the whole time on the Facebook timeline and showing universal communication. Of course, after such a long while, like more than a year, you have to do breaks. Like you have to take a rest. Me as a human being, I had to take a rest in between. And the Facebook timeline is showing really clear that I was very transparent live nearly the whole time, except the time when I was sleeping, live by posting on the Facebook page what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, what are my medical conditions. So I made all this transparent because it was switching very fast over a period of more than a year. So Mahatma Gandhi, you can find in my Facebook timeline. And regarding the contact, because I'm having contacts with human beings, um, I was guided. My human body was influenced, so I was guided when I used the internet to reach this link, and that's how the communication works. What I call in the Facebook timeline soft touch. The real art of communication war, if you want it like that, and it's a peaceful war, is for myself as a human being, as a master in this discipline, is to reflect inside my human brain if I'm going through my day, and to analyze and canalize my own thoughts and the thoughts other beings created in my human body by soft touch, where they were trying to guide me to a communication path. You can understand it like that. So what I'm doing daily is I'm reflecting on a very, very high level inside my own thoughts, inside my own human body, because I'm communicating with other beings which do not have their own human body through my own human physical body. So me, myself, as my I exclude from my physical body for that universal communication. From the perspective I'm using to analyze my physical human body. That's the way you can get it. Regarding that speech, some parts of it are in it. If I'm guided to links, you have to understand these links are them for me as a communication partner, as the communication partner of the other beings, or for the public, for that moment in time I am in, or later if we work on it. Regarding this video, I was more or less requested to work on it a little bit, because some interesting questions are in it for the situation I'm in. If you see the links in my Facebook timeline in general, in the universal communication of a video such as that, a little piece can be part of a communication. A picture, a sentence, a word, or the whole video. It depends on the situation. In that case, there is a lot of it in it, but you have to see the speech regarding the situation the Facebook account is showing I am in and what I'm making transparent to humans alive. So you have to switch all the videos a bit there to understand the communication system. For example, I give you one example. If you are a human being and you had, let's say, a grandmother, and you like cheesecake, and your grandmother always made cheesecake for you, and then she died. And she is trying to contact you. She can reach your physical body and touch it. You will not realize that. And she can guide you through your day so that you will watch a video for cooking. And this dessert, they talk the whole time during 30 minutes video about the dessert which gonna come later, and nobody knows what the dessert is. And later in this video you see it's a cheesecake. What human beings alive normally cannot do, and they are unable to understand, is that this could be the try of the grandmother who died before to reach that human being, because she guided the human being to watch the video to see the cheesecake, to think about, oh, my grandma made good cheesecake. Because this would be the door for the grandma to connect to that and do the next step. To produce a river with where she can guide the human body, the human being alive, to communicate with him. If the human being alive would understand that. Normally human beings do not understand that. So Mahatma Gandhi, this speech is very interesting regarding the situation I'm in. I'm going to make it, it's very complex, but I'm going to try to make it short. I'm living in my physical human body, me Niall, born 1984. as a being in my human body, and I lived alone since 2 years ago or whatever. And then a symbiont reached my body first. The symbiont is a species, a species without a body, but they can use all physical bodies on planet Earth. And they can destroy, so kill human beings, or fix them, so heal human beings. The physical human body. The physical human body. Okay, got it? And beside that, I'm living with other beings in a symbiose, which also use my human body. And they have lived as human beings before. The communication is very complex, and each being is an individual. That's what people have to understand. The symbiont, what I call the symbiont in the timeline, this being is an individual too, but he can be used by other beings as a connection line, because they can communicate over him with my physical human body. The symbiont is most of the time, and he can go through my whole body and give signals where he is at. Most of the time he's in my head, and he's using my brain too, and giving me signals in the front for a yes, or in the back of the no, as a no. Okay? So it's an intelligent species, they can communicate, and they do have features, and they can help humans as well. Regarding this soft touch, I explained by beings, for example, which have lived as human beings before, and the symbiont could do it too. So because they're invisible, but they can use a human body, there becomes the question, who is the one who's bringing the soft touch always to the human body? So you have to identify this communication partner, and you have to find ways that this communication partner can identify himself to the public. In my case, because I wanted to make it transparent on the Facebook timeline. Therefore, very often my communication partners used what I called parameters in the Facebook timeline. Which means, if I think something about something today, let's say a red car, a Käfer, which is an old fuck shitty car, Käfer, Volkswagen. So I think today about the Volkswagen Käfer. Tomorrow I'm walking through my day, what do I see? A red Volkswagen Käfer. For example, with a special license plate number on it. And this could be a communication part of the universal communication. So the person who was driving the red Volkswagen was guided by soft touch close to the area where I'm walking through, because a being used that human body to communicate with me. And the human being who's driving the Käfer, he's going through his day and he's thinking, I had the idea to go there because I have to do some stuff. He doesn't know anything. For him, all we can do on that level is invisible. The human beings normally in the mass of the people do not know anything about that stuff. It's like the real high life. Regarding me, there are a few things to know if you check the Facebook account. So I'm Niall Sebastian Power Sieger. My father was a Power, that's a family part, and Sieger is the other family part. Sieger means something like champion, winner, always. Niall is Sebastian. Niall Sebastian Power Sieger is my name. Sebastian means the wise one. And Sebastian is coming from Sebastianus. Sebastianus was also, it's like, the name has a history of protecting people. Let me say it like this. Niall. So that's my first name. That's how my family called me. That's a title as well. And it's a description. It's a title, it's a description. So Niall is saying many things. On one hand, it's saying Niles will follow the high kings in their rights. In their rights. In German, die Rechtsnachfolger der keltischen Hochkönige. Okay? I'll do this in German first and then I'll do it in English. Das ist in meinem Fall nicht zutreffend, ich bin lebender Hochkönig. So, now in English. So Niall is saying the followers of the Irish High Kings. In my case, it's wrong because I am a living High King. Niall describes regarding the Druids also the highest master class, so the highest level of the master class. Of the seeing Druids, so the Druids which can see very far and see invisible things. The Druids are the highest master class of natural law speaking. And the Druids, the highest master class in healing. So that's what Niall means, and the King of Chess always. So I'm gonna start the video now. Niall Sebastian Power Sieger, that's me. And you will hear that somebody is talking about a power too. So you can mark it as a parameter. Parameters is if you find a reflection of me, the communication partner, in the link of the other beings I'm communicating with in general, so that you can understand that better. A reflection. Like I would look into a mirror, but it's a parameter reflection. It's not a
mysterious power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I do not see it. It is this unseen power which makes itself felt and yet defies all proof, because it is so unlike all that I perceive through my senses.
So he's talking about senses now. The human body, you can use senses like smelling, like seeing, stuff like that. Regarding this, if I communicate with other beings which have lived as human beings before, if they use my human body, it's interesting to know for the people which watch this video that they can use my senses. And I am Niall Sebastian Power Sieger.
It transcends the senses, but it is possible.
It transcends the senses. Therefore, I explained the symbiont is also used by others for the universal communication, so by other beings. And the symbiont is a being by himself too. Okay, so if he gives me signal, I have to find out, is it the symbiont himself or another being using the symbiont for the communication with me. To help me in the reflection inside my thoughts and my brain, the other beings can put force there. And for example, if I think a sentence, they can scratch it. So the sentence will be very long and I will think very slow instead of very fast, because I'm a fast thinker. And if I think very slow and my brain is not able to think faster, or if I can find confusion inside my brain, I do know these parts of the sentence belong to the other beings which we're trying to communicate with. So it's if they do that, on one side it's very brutal for me as a being inside my physical human body, but on the other side it's very easy to identify the parts of the sentence, and then you have to bring the proof of the being you're communicating with, and the proof that this sentence or that part was communicated by this being, or the being when he communicates brings the proof automatically by the reflections. But therefore you need a separate identification of the being to be 100% sure that you do communicate with the right being, and that's a feeling based thing for real. And that's also very complex, because feelings can be transferred from beings you communicate with into your human body as well. And then often you think these are your human feelings, but that's incorrect. It's a translation, more or less often, or a direct feeling from the other being. But you as a human being, if you live through that, for you it's the reality how you feel everything. That's the way, the best way to describe it. On one hand, they can use a real way, which could be measured. That's what they communicated by medical equipment. Therefore, if doctors see these videos, you are invited to contact me directly, because I do search for a little team with medical equipment to make it transparent to the public what I'm doing in my life. Because the other beings I'm communicating with, they would also like to communicate directly and very transparent to the public, because help they would like to help the human species in general with the knowledge they can get from the CI, and they would like to transfer it to planet Earth, but the people were not listening to me, and it's not so easy to explain the situation I'm in. So if medical people see this, please use your chance, and I would be very thankful for that, as other beings as well. Where did I stop? So it's very difficult. No, it's very important and not so easy. It's true to identify the being you do speak with, because different beings can control the natural forces. Different being can transfer knowledge or manipulate the human body, the physical human body. Regarding the manipulation of physical human bodies, I do communicate this little piece I'm saying now to the medical world. My knowledge is that often forefathers did try to communicate with human beings, and they ended up, because they did not understand what's happening to their physical body, they ended up thinking they would be crazy and stuff like that. But these are just effects. These are effects and the try from the other side to push the human being with force to a learning process to be them able to communicate with their forefathers. So the medical world, please wake up, and it would be great if medical people would build a team and contact me directly, because I think the forefathers... So hi, this is the second part of the video. The storage was full, so the capacity to save the video. This is the second part of the video. I ended the first part. There was the cut when I said that medical people should be open-minded to several illness pictures they do work with in their daily life, because the universal communication can the try from the forefathers in the universal communication with living human beings can lead to a situation where doctors think a human being has a typical illness, like the picture of a psychosis, for example, and that's not the case. The case would be then that forefathers tried to reach that one and started confusion and stuff like this inside his physical human body, so that he can realize that he is contacted, or she. So I stopped, I think, in the last video to request medical people to be open-minded, and others as well to be open-minded, if you check my data in general and the videos. So I go back to the universal communication I had here, as I explained, and I'm doing the video because it's requested actually from the human, from the being I was in contact with. It's not a human being anymore. And the situation was that the video was adopted for our communication, and I was guided by Softtouch to that link. My situation is very complex. Maybe I explained it in the first part already. I share my physical body with other beings. So these beings have special features and a lot of power. And they can, for example, control physical bodies, change thoughts in a physical human body, or can communicate by natural forces. I'm not sure if I explained all that in the first video. If yes, I apologize, but then I'll repeat it now. If they, for example, change the physical body of a human being because they do manipulate the thoughts of the human being they're communicating with, these beings, then from a human perspective, because they have such power, and they just can do it with the human body, even if the human don't want to, because the human alive is not strong enough to go with the human body against this interaction. With the human body is too weak. Even if the being who was born as a human being would be strong, inside the human body would not be possible to go against it too far without that. So they can interact with physical human bodies alive. They can create confusion in a human body. They can put thoughts into the brain of a human, so that the human first, if the human don't realize it, then the human will think these are his or her thoughts. So they can put thoughts into a human body, physical body. So it's very complex, and from a human perspective, quickly humans would say this are a ruler. This is a ruler. If the human being is not able to identify the other being he's communicating with, or the being who's trying to communicate with the human being, if the human being is unable, he quickly will decide this must be the ruler, because of all that, what is possible, the influence they can have on a physical body, what they can do, and they also can change how a human being alive see the reality surrounding. And they can change the reality for real also. Because the planet Earth is an illusion. And if that happens quickly, the human beings alive try to explain to other human beings the situation, and they will not be understood. So other people will judge them that they are sick and mentally ill, psychos, stuff like that. So that's why I said medical people should be awake if they're in contact with my data. And regarding this, I can inform you that Niall is also a title in the Celtic world, Irish world, for the druids, for the master healers, the highest master class of doctors, if you want it like that. But they didn't need a doctor title. They didn't need a doctor title, sorry, because the Niall, description Niall is the title in itself, in some cases. So, the beings I'm in contact with, they're individuals. It doesn't matter the species even. What people, if they watch my videos, have to understand is the immense power they do have. And don't be irritated because I am a power by myself is true too. I belong to the family of the powers in Ireland. So in this video, both happened. The reflection identified me as the other human being alive who's communicating with this being. In my timeline shows live periods when I do universal communication on Facebook. Now Power Sieger.9 is the Facebook. So it identifies the communication partner directly in it. And there are much more parameters in this video as well, which do identify the communication partner, me, as a human being. But that's because of the complex situation I'm in, because I'm living together with the symbiont, I'm communicating with other beings and stuff like that. His speech, even if it was made for a different situation, can be used in big parts for the situation I'm in. For example, ruler could be a political ruler, or it could be a god. A god could be a human being or a creature from another species, or the Almighty God, as people in religion often see it. Regarding the beings I'm in contact with very often, which have lived as human beings before or belonging to other species. Therefore, it is important for human beings alive to understand that many of them have the possibility and the feature, for example, to use natural forces and stuff like that. So it is not one being who's deciding that, it's a symbiosis. A biological symbiosis, if you want it like that. that this would be how humans alive would classify it. Okay, I'll go back to the video. This video, as I said, was part of the communication because I was guided into that link to see the video, and it was part of my communication.
God to a limited extent. Even in ordinary affairs, we know that people do not know who rules or why and how he rules. And yet they know that there is a...
So now I'm coming back to me, Niall. I did a Facebook file for a long while for the people who don't know that, and I informed governments, secret services, stuff like that I will make universal communication public with beings which have lived as human beings before. And therefore I started with others a project called Evolution Live. Some people called it like that. And actually my Facebook timeline is showing this kind of communications with other beings for a long while. But it's also showing the medical periods and stuff I already said. So this is a file I made public in general, the data we created in this symbiotic way, me and my communication partners, which don't have a human body anymore. So these are not living people I created the Facebook timeline with. But in the Facebook timeline are musicians, for example, because we can communicate over music, me and the beings which don't have a human body anymore, because they can use human bodies for communication purposes by Softtouch. So this is my Facebook account also showing, and regarding that you can find a lot of musicians which are live and singing about Niall and stuff like that. They have received informations from human beings which have special features, and they also can outread minds. Mind readers, if you want to like that. They can outread thoughts, and they outreaded me for this 1.5 years and passed that information to musicians which not have been in direct contact with me, and that's how these songs in parts of these songs have been created, and others have been created by the mirror system too, but before I showed myself to the public. And that's what happened when I showed myself to the people in Mannheim, a music band called the Mannheims. That's why you can find many German and English music links in my Facebook site. So the forefathers can use per Softtouch living human beings, and they then go to a studio, for example, and produce music. And this music can be in just a word, a sentence, bits and pieces, can be part of my communications with the beings who created first of all the music and then guided my human body into the link world that I received the music link on YouTube. That's the way I made it public. And that's how I created this Facebook timeline. I was sitting there in front of my computer and communicating live with other beings which don't have a human body anymore. But they used my human body for it, and I reflected inside myself, made it transparent. And that's how it became that it's showing so much confusion in the timeline, so much medical periods and stuff like that. Because the other beings influenced my human body to create a situation like that, to show it to the public. And that's why I said it's important not to judge me too early. In the file, which is the Facebook timeline, but the project was running for 1.5 years. The beings I was in contact with from the sea, I communicated a lot of real chances for humans in general. They were not used, sadly, very sadly. And instead, me as a human being who made everything transparent and tried to show that even if it's going into most private areas of my human body, what I show to the public, well, the people judged me, of course. So they lost themselves in the data. I'm very sad, but I'm trying to make the data even more better and more transparent to the others, so that people in the future will not lose themselves anymore, but will have the chance to learn to communicate with their forefathers for real. But at the moment, therefore, I'm waiting to find people which with equipment, the right equipment and stuff like that, because then you could make it more transparent in general. The other beings I'm in contact with, they also want this. They want to help human beings, and they would have nearly all the knowledge you can imagine to solve problems, and they also have a lot of power and possibilities to heal physical bodies, in general, plants, animals, and human beings. And for the future, the beings which we can call the forefathers of other human beings want to implement a structure, an embassy structure on planet Earth for themselves to communicate with human beings and for their families which are still alive, so human beings still alive, which them would have this embassy structure to reach that and to communicate with their forefathers. If they not can do it directly, and this embassy structure would have the job to train people to learn it and stuff like that. But I'm going back to the speech. But you can see to pass the knowledge was part of the Facebook timeline anyway in the project I was doing. That's why when I receive a request like this, it can take a moment before I react, but I will react as if I have enough time.
Power, that certainly do. In my tour last year in Mysore, I met many poor villagers, and I found upon inquiry that they did.
So the ruler and the power that rules. If you look at my physical body at the moment where I was in contact with Gandhi, at that point in time before I made this video regarding my Facebook timeline, when I had contact with him, you can find it in the Facebook timeline. It's marked as many universal contacts I had. So, but if the situation would be now that he would influence my human body to communicate with others, it could have several different effects. It would take too long to describe all effects, but I give you a short view on what they can do in general, and you please see it separate, because they're not going to do everything together in normal cases. But he could influence my body directly by stretching my thoughts and putting thoughts into my human brain, and by stretching them I can see them easy and identify them as thoughts from somewhere else. And he could identify them by the thoughts in addition to a transferred feeling, or in addition to identifying himself too by guiding me through a link word and then classifying him by feelings. Okay? He could influence my physical human body that I wouldn't be able to speak anymore very well. There would be like a little error. This I would realize also, so I would realize somebody's influencing my human body. For communication purpose, these beings sometimes try to make a point clear by force to a human body. So they can create feeling and pain in the human body that and really can influence the human body, even that I think it would be possible to measure it, or let me say it like that, I'm sure it would be possible to measure it, so that it feels like a hand would grab a human being. But what they do is they create pressure on the bones and on the skin and different stuff like that. So pain can be part of the communication. In this case, when I had contact with him, he guided me into the link, identified himself. I identified myself over the reflection, the power reflection in that case, and the situation I was in at that moment in time was perfect for the link he guided me into. And the request was to explain more, the request to me from his side, to explain more to the public the identification of the ruler, in the sense that the ruler is the universal being, so a being in the universe, who's trying to communicate with a human being in a human body. But because this being do not have a human body by himself, he can place thoughts and stuff like that in the human body, so in my one, or can contact me through pain. But the human being alive have to be able to reflect inside himself, to identify everything, and to connect it to the right being who's communicating with him. And that's the identification of that, what he called the ruler. In my case, I'm Niall. I don't accept any rulers, even if they have more power than I do have in my human body. I don't accept the description ruler in general for me as a human being alive, because I'm my own ruler as a being in my human body, even if my human body can be overcome by force and violence from other beings which do not have a human body anymore but use this for communication purpose. So there was a disagreement in the communication between me and him, or him and me, from my side, after he guided me and identified himself with the link, so that people from the outside can understand the situation at that point in time, back there, better, deeper down, as we described it on the Facebook. So I'm gonna keep going with the link, just trying to make maximum transparent the situation I was in and how the communication works, so that all people can understand it. And there are many videos, and therefore, because I'm trying to do that to the public, therefore I apologize, but I will repeat a few things always in the videos. So the people which watch these videos have to accept that they sometimes see or hear something they already know. So please do not judge me there. It's for the people which are new and watching the videos new.
Not know who ruled my soul. They simply said, some God ruled it. It's the knowledge of...
So my soul, what I have seen, see it like that for a moment? Who have ruled what I've seen, so they can influence my human body by Softtouch or by thoughts they put into my human brain, and by feelings. I can have a feeling. For example, I give you a situation as an example. I sit in front of my laptop, use YouTube, and I think I have the feeling I want to click on that link. Later on, I find out this feeling was a non-natural feeling created by them to guide me to the link. What I'm gonna see at that moment in time is the link, this link. So who guided me to this link? Who was what he described as the ruler? Him. Not me, the living human being. In my case, I don't accept the word ruler. Let's say universal communication. But that's how you can understand the speech. For the situation we are in with my Facebook account, which is Niall Power Sieger. And by the way, if I can inform you that we have a University Embassy WordPress page, and I'm going to put the videos also on there, and there you can find it more easy later. The website is getting an update right now. It's December 29th.
These four people were limited about their ruler. I, who am infinitely lesser in respect to God than they to their ruler, need not be surprised if I do not realize the presence of God.
That's an important information. If beings from the universe try to contact you to communicate with you, it doesn't make sense only to listen. Even if these beings are very powerful and they try to communicate with you by force, and you would, as a human being alive, if you don't understand the situation, you're going to be in that at that moment in time. You're just going to understand there is a being which has more force and is more powerful than me and can control my human body, because that's what they're going to teach you, these beings, if you start to communicate with them. It doesn't make sense to be only a listener. So they are not rulers, they are beings which are very strong, and they can influence how we can see the reality, they can influence our human body and guide us. But to have a universal communication only to listen would be the wrong position for them starting a communication and a talk. The better position is to ask questions or to think about which kind of being it could be and stuff like that, to give the other being, which do not have a human body and cannot communicate so simple that a human being can see and understand it, the chance to react with less violence, less pain, less force, and to make his position more clear or to identify himself. If beings, that's my experience, use violence to bring human beings into the situation that they ask themselves, who is doing all this in my life? Who's creating this trouble in my life? That's what the point they want to reach, because only them, the human being, is opening himself for beings which do not have a human body, and only then maybe the being starts to reflect on his physical problems as a human being alive will see it, for example, confusion, pain, stuff like that, and will try to find out what is it. And this is their gate of these beings, one of the gates they can use to bring human beings into a situation where they then can start the universal communication. Very often, that's what I learned in the communication with different beings, very often the forefathers even reach that point, even with their own family members, so they use a little bit force. They bring them into life situations which are very complicated, where the human being is confused the whole time, have some pain, stuff like that, because they want to try to communicate with him so hardly, they're not going to use too much force. But very often, that's what I learned from the communication, the situation is done, they go back. They return, leave the human being alone, because they see there's no chance that this human being is open-minded and opening himself to see us, them, trying to reach that human being alive with the communication. So what we can realize going on in our physical body, human body, can be to try to communicate with you from your forefathers. That's what I would say to the people which are watching these videos, that you can understand if they try it in your life better, and only a few percentage of the living human beings ever have the life experience to have real universal communication. That's sadly part of the communication I'm going through nearly daily, the results of this communication with other beings which have lived as human beings before and have living family members on planet Earth.
The King of Kings. Nevertheless, I do feel.
The King of Kings, that's the identification. I told you identification can over mirror reflection happen. So I'm Niall. Niall in Ireland, Niall is the King of Kings in chess, always and everywhere. Everywhere would be the universe. I'm Niall, I'm real. And the rest you can check out. You will find, but do the research deeper.
That there is orderliness in the universe. There is an unalterable law governing everything and every being.
That's why I said it's not good only to listen regarding this law he's talking about, because the law is action and reaction. So if a being is trying to contact you as a human being alive, for example by thought or by thoughts, inputs, by confusion, all these effects, and then you realize there's a being trying to communicate with me, but I don't know who it is, it must be the ruler. I'm just going to this position to accept everything without asking questions. Then you will never come into the situation of a very good communication, which would be action and reaction. Action would be a being is giving you an input, your reaction would be to ask questions, to identify the being better, instead of accepting everything. You would ask a question for everything, instead of accepting everything without allowing yourself to ask a question. So the position to see other beings as a ruler is mentally not very open-minded in general, and not very helpful for universal communication in general.
That exists or lives.
It's
It is
the
not a
same
blind
action and
law,
reaction
for
principle,
no blind
of course, you can find in chess. As I said, Niall describes the king of the kings always and everywhere in the chess principles.
law can govern the conduct of living beings. And thanks to the marvelous researches of the J.C. Bose, it can now be proved that even matter is life. That law, then, which governs
Regarding proof in general for this universal communication and the Facebook account, the data which them existed, is proof because I informed governments before that are going to create this Facebook account and invited them to cover me by overlooking every step I do and overlooking all the electronic technical things which are surrounding me and stuff like that, so that they can have a great overview. The University CI Embassy site page and the Facebook page are showing also the communication by natural forces, so this is something Secret Services will have a look at anyways. And if I do in this data, and we did, moves where I could see what the future will bring, and the data did not exist in my life before, so Secret Services can research that because they have all the IP addresses, then it's clear another being helped out by transferring. So there are two options. The first thing is it's clear another being helped out, the human being Niall, to know a parameter which is going to be there in the future, going to be bring the proof for being Niall is in contact with, because that's the way this being is identifying himself. Got it? It's very complex. The other thing is my features, my own features, because I have my own features. But the file is showing, the file is the Facebook page and other electronic data, is showing in general that it's possible to see what the future will bring. I'm not saying it is possible for each human being, even not for me, to do it daily, but it is possible, and my file is showing that, and I did it by myself, and other beings did it too. Even for a human being alive, it is possible to see the future. I did it in lifetime, my mom did it in lifetime in parts, and the file is very complex. Just that everybody understands, my mom is a big part of the Facebook timeline, because I started my universal communication, my own learning processes. My mom died and I didn't want to accept that. So I wanted to talk to her, and that's how I created a situation by killing myself and destroying myself, that she had to react before I then absolutely indefinitely die with my human body. And so she's tried by a feelings, knowledge transfer and all that. And that's called by the humans lightning, or the touch of the gods. And since then I'm communicating in public, and I showed myself to the public because my mom requested for other beings, which are there what you would call heaven, help to communicate with human beings alive. You can understand it like that, first of all. Okay, I'm gonna...
all life is God. Law and the lawgiver are one. I may not deny the law or the lawgiver, because
now human beings have to be careful, because he's talking from his perspective at that point in time of his human life when this was created, or when it was created, the people would say it. So, the God. A human being alive can be a God, and a being which do not have a human body anymore can be a God too. So a God, the forefathers would speak through, if they use the human body of a living human being, would be the human being himself. Not the being who could be also described as a God. We do not have a human being, a human body anymore on its own, because he's communicating in a symbiote with and over the human body of another being, which is in control of that human body. Another way they could communicate to the public in general, but not with the human being alive, would be to overtake the human body, which is also possible. Please understand, what my Facebook account is showing, what I'm saying in my videos is absolutely mind-blowing for people from the normal society which are busy with their daily life. I do understand all that, but I just can repeat, please do not judge me. If you're interested in that, please just try to make up your mind and be absolutely open-minded. Try to understand the systems, the different ways I can communicate with beings from different species or with beings which don't have a human body anymore. And as soon as you understood the separate ways of communication possibilities, then you will be able to understand the complex situation. If that step is not happening,